Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be ranking most of the curse techniques from Jujutsu Kaisen. Before I get into today's video, I of course have to mention my subscriber goal for 2021, hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of my videos and you're not subscribed, you might as well reach that goal. The other thing is my Patreon. If you want to help support me and the channel directly, or get access to some solo leveling and omniscient reader reviews, you can always become a patron. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Now, a few things. This is not the first time I've tried recording this video. I did this video the other day, and when I hit stop recording, I sat there for a minute and thought to myself, and I said, I don't think I should upload this. And this is one of the only times I've ever done it, because it was one of the most uncertain and indecisive recording sessions I've ever done. I have never been so uncertain about any decisions in any video I've ever made. Yeah, so I went back, I chatted with some of the lads on the Discord, did a tier list with them, watching and providing counsel, and I have that completed tier list here to use as reference. So this is going to be about as scripted as my videos get. So, unfortunately, there really are not any good curse technique tier lists. I found like one and it was kind of terrible. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use this strength tier list that I did for my, character strength ranking video. And I made some slight modifications, and we're just going to have the characters be stand-ins for various techniques. So I have a tier for characters that have the same technique as another character, and one for characters who we haven't seen their technique, or they don't have one. So this is, of course, a ranking of curse techniques, not the strength of characters. The factors I'm taking into consideration are power, but also versatility, potential, and kind of just overall usefulness. So, starting off, let's get rid of some of the repeat characters. We have Naoya, he has projection sorcery. We're just going to have Naobito do that. For the repeat characters, it's just going to be those that don't have the prime version, the ideal version of the curse technique. So Naoya, we're going to put parts of other techniques, such as Absolute Mekamaru and Maharaga. I'm just going to include him within 10 Shadows. Where is Kamo? Where is he? Where are you, buddy? There you are. Kamo and Miwa. I'm also going to be allowing techniques that are not inherited or not innate techniques, so that I can talk about New Shadow and Reverse Curse technique, because I feel like those are fairly important and should probably be included on any kind of list talking about curse techniques. So that's our repeats. Now, for the characters who either don't have a technique or we haven't seen it, Yuhaibara, we have Utahime. We know Utahime has something relating to singing, or her voice, but we haven't really seen anything of it yet. It will probably be something kind of similar to curse speech, maybe, or maybe something entirely different. Maybe it'll just have to do with, like, pitches and tones and stuff. I have no idea. Yeah, Kumaya Juzo, never saw your technique. Maybe it has something to do with curse tool creation, but we were never shown or told what it was. Grasshopper Spirit, you don't have a technique. Yuki, we have not seen her technique yet. Yuji does not have a technique. I don't consider Divergent Fist to be a curse technique. It's just a variation on cursed energy manipulation. So that doesn't count. Panda does not have a technique. He's just a cursed corpse. Well, we know he's a bit more than a cursed corpse. But he doesn't have any, curse technique. Everything that he does is in relation purely to his physiology. Heavenly Restriction is not a technique by any stretch of the imagination. It's in Toji and Maki's case, it's an explicit lack of technique. I don't care what you have to say. Fight me. Heavenly Restriction is not a curse technique. And the last one, we have the Finger Curse Wounds. Those seemingly just manipulate cursed energy. So, let's start off this list with Haruta Shigamo with the shittiest technique in the series. Well, one of them. The Miracle thing, it's borderline useless. The only thing it does is it stops you from getting killed by things, but there's a limited number of charges. There's a limited number of times it can stop you from getting killed. And you can get hit hard enough for it to use up multiple charges. So, like, what happens if Haruto gets caught in a domain expansion? He may not die on the first hit, but then may die on the second or third, and that's all it's gonna do. Not good at all. If you're going to argue to me that his miracle thing is actually top tier, please reread chapter 100 and make that argument to me again. Next, we have Blackbird manipulation. As Mei Mei herself says, it's a not very useful technique at all. Mei Mei is the one who's made that technique as powerful as it is. Next, we have tool manipulation. Like, not really much to say about it, just not very many uses. Moondregs. It's like a basic Shikigami. He's got like some poison, I guess. Not really anything great. Not really anything amazing. Whatever Gakuganji's air slash thing is using his body is like an amp. Like, it's like a basic ranged attack. Nothing really remarkable about that. Kechizu's rot technique. It's not really fast enough to be super useful, as we saw from when he and Eso fought Yuji and Nobara. Not great. Not a great technique. Eso is very much in the same camp, except Wing King. This is more so ranking Wing King. That's just puts him like above Kechizu. And then we have the smallpox powers of the smallpox deity. The worst domain expansion in the series. It has a bunch of conditions that are relatively easy to break out of to avoid getting smallpox. However, it does give you smallpox, so like, credit where credit's due, I guess. Now, we're moving our way up to B tier. And we're going to start off with the inversion technique. It's good if you're fighting one person who doesn't know how the technique works. If you're fighting more than one person, if you're fighting a smart person who can figure out how it works, or you're fighting someone that knows how it works, it's not going to do shit. We've also seen that it's possible for you to like be accidentally injured. If you get hit by something that's not really moving that fast, or something that doesn't really have a lot of impact, you can take big damage from that. So that's like not amazing. But it does have its uses, as we've seen. Now, new Shadow style. We have not seen enough of it to give like a definitive rating of how great the new Shadow style is, or how trash it is. However, it does have Simple Domain. And Simple Domain is a fucking lifesaver if you get caught in a domain expansion and don't have your own. So I feel like for that reason alone, we kind of have to put it up here. Because it could literally be a life or death thing if you're fighting someone with domain expansion. After that, we have 7-3. Very solid, just kind of attacking technique. The ability to do critical hits on an opponent, especially when it's a lot stronger than you, is very useful. And there seems to be a lot of variety in how specific you can get with what ratio is being targeted. But outside of that, it doesn't have like a bunch of applications. It's just kind of like a one-trick pony, for the most part. If you hit a thing and do big damage to a certain spot, that's it. After that, we have Ino's, it's like a 4 Guardian Spirit thing. It's alright. It's like a decent technique. It seems to have quite a few different uses, but it doesn't really seem to have much in the way of potential for growth. And it doesn't seem super powerful, at least in comparison to some other techniques. Now, Straw Doll technique. Straw Doll is not an amazing technique, but it's a pretty good technique. It's pretty decent. It has a variety of uses. I do think it's much more useful as like a support ability, but when it is used as a support ability, it does wonders. I mean, we've seen pretty much every time Nobara uses Resonance, it's a critical hit. So, Straw Doll could make or break a fight for some people. If you have someone on your team that has Straw Doll, that could be a massive help. Next, Cursed Speech. Cursed Speech is very powerful, but it has a lot of drawbacks. The primary one being the recoil that you get from using it. If you use it a lot, if you use very powerful words, or if you use it against someone who is much stronger than you, you are not going to be using it for much longer because it's going to destroy your throat. Now, if in theory you were someone with a stupid amount of cursed energy like Yuta, in theory you could probably use cursed speech to a much greater extent than someone like Inumaki. However, you also have the drawback of the fact you can't really talk to people with it, so I don't know. It's pretty good, it's pretty powerful under the right circumstances, and when used in moderation. But if you use it too much, you're going to start having some issues. Next, Boogie Woogie. Boogie Woogie is really good in the hands of someone like Toto. It's amazing in the hands of someone like Toto and when he's doing a 2v1 or a 2v however many people. When you have a lot of opponents, and especially if you have someone who's on your side, Boogie Woogie is amazing. But that requires a lot of different circumstances for it to be amazing. Otherwise, it's fairly useful, but I don't think it's anything fantastic. Next, Projection Sorcery. Projection Sorcery, as we've seen from... Are we going to move Toto? Will the Toto move for Nabito? There we go. Projection Sorcery is, like, pretty strong. It's pretty good. You basically just keep getting free hits on your opponent, and it seemingly makes you so fast that you're borderline teleporting. But it doesn't have any of the kind of big power or any of the sort of potential applications of use, or I guess that'd be versatility, as some of the other techniques that I have higher on the list. But it's fairly solid. Puppet Manipulation. Pretty useful. The ability to, sort of go out and do things without your own body being at personal risk, and also all of the abilities that you can put into a puppet while using it. It's got a fair amount of versatility. It can be fairly powerful. But the reason Mechamaru is as strong as he is in large part due to his Heavenly Restriction, which increases his range and his quantities of cursed energy. So without the Heavenly Restriction, it's nowhere near as good. Otherwise, it's just like a fairly standard good technique. Now, we're done with the B tier. Let's move on to the A tier. Starting off with Dagon's, what was that called? It was like Waves of Destruction or something. I don't actually... Did they ever actually even state what the name of his water technique was? I don't think they did. At least not in the manga. It's got about, I'd say, the same level of destructive power application as most of the other Disaster Spirits, though definitely to a lower extent, and I don't think it has some of the same applications as a lot of their other techniques do. So, bottom A tier, just for sheer power. Jogo goes above him for pretty much the same reason. It's pure destructive power, but on a much higher scale, but you can't really do much other than destroy things. Same goes for Sukuna's... we don't actually even know if Fire Arrow and Cleave and Dismantle are separate techniques, or if they're part of one huge technique that has a bunch of different uses. If it actually does... If it does way more than just slashing and fire, and it actually goes into the 5 elements, or whatever, 4 or 5, depending on... Well, this is in Asia, so probably 5 elements. That's going to get a little crazy. But in the meantime, it's just the hugest destructive power, and you also get a little bit more versatility when it comes to Cleave, which for some reason is the more precise technique than Dismantle, even though Dismantle sounds much more precise. I don't know, weird decision on the translator's part, assuming that was a translation thing. Above Sukuna, or not above Sukuna, above Sukuna's techniques, we have Urayume's Frost Formation. You have big destructive power, you can take out whole groups of people at the same time, but you can also choose to, non-lethally take people out. You can choose to just capture people, freeze them, as we saw Urayume do. You can just render an entire group of people incapable of fighting back. It's got a fairly decent amount of applications, and we haven't even seen, Urayume fight seriously with it, so there may still even be more that you can do with Frost Manipulation, or Frost Formation. Yeah. Hanami's, Wood Manipulation? I don't actually know if that was named either. That's basically the same story with all of these other techniques under it, but it has even more applications than all of those, and that you don't just have non-lethal applications of it, you can also create like whole structures with it, completely change the environment of the battlefield. It's got so much versatility in its potential uses, along with power. It's a pretty strong technique. The Infinity. Now, I know, Misk, what the fuck are you doing? The Infinity is only A tier? Yes, I'll tell you why. It's because it seems like the Infinity is only an unbeatable god technique when you have the 6 eyes and you know reverse curse technique. It seems like a big reason that Gojo is even significantly stronger than prior users of the Infinity that had the 6 eyes is because Gojo knows reverse curse technique. He can constantly, heal his body, stay in tip-top shape. He never gets tired. We saw before he learned reverse curse technique that he was really strong, but he wasn't untouchable. He was still fallible before he knew it. So the Infinity is extremely powerful, but it's not unbeatable unless you have all of the perfect conditions. And last on the A tier is Kenjaku's body swapping. Indirect immortality, always great. You use the techniques of whoever's body that you're inside of. So if you possess the body of, a special grade sorcerer who has stupid powers like curse manipulation, you are as busted as they are. Another thing is that binding vows don't apply to you anymore, apparently, if you switch bodies. So you can just go around getting benefits from binding vows and then not have to follow through with them as soon as you switch to another body. So that's great. The only real downside to body swapping is that seemingly you have to wait for your target to die in order to take over their body. So, well, as far as we know. So that would mean that you would have to wait. Like, if you wanted to take over a 6 eyes and Infinity user, you would have to wait for them to die. And with how strong those guys usually are, you're going to be waiting for a while if you ever get the chance. So it does have some limitations, but overall, body swapping has a shitload of potential uses. Potential from use. It's pretty crazy. So let's get into the S tier. At the bottom, reverse curse technique. I don't know if some of you understand how useful the ability to heal yourself and others is. Shoko is like an irreplaceable asset to the Jujutsu sorcerers, because if people get seriously injured or get injured at all, they are not going to be going on missions for a while. But with reverse curse technique, you can heal them and they'll be up and going in a relatively short amount of time. Then you have, the application of reverse curse technique on oneself, as we saw with Gojo. It can pretty much make it so you never have to stop fighting. I mean, eventually you would probably run out of cursed energy, but in a fight, you can just keep healing yourself. Like, it's exceptionally useful. That's why anyone who knows reverse curse technique is as important as they are, because it's a lifesaver, literally. Now, blood manipulation. Blood manipulation has versatility out the ass. You have options at close range with Flowing Red Scale and potentially Flowing Red Scale stack, depending on whether or not only Chozo is able to do that because of his physiology. Then you have mid-range stuff like the Exercising Saw or the Crimson Bindings. Then you have super long-range stuff like Piercing Blood. It's just got some of the most versatility out of basically any curse technique. And the only issue for most people is running out of blood. However, we have seen that you're able to prepare blood ahead of time. If your blood is already outside of your body in like a blood bag, you can still manipulate it. So, yeah. Blood manipulation, mostly up here for versatility. Like, ridiculous amounts of versatility. Next, creation. So creation is trash because Mai has it. But if someone awesome had it, like, Yuta, it would be godlike, because it seems like the power of creation is dependent entirely on the power of the user. It's just a cursed energy thing, so if you have a shitload of cursed energy, God knows what you could make with creation. The limitations are based entirely on whoever has it, so it could be really fucking strong if someone really strong has it. So that's the reason for me to put it up there. Next, we have Curse Corpse creation, or manipulation. As we found out in the most recent chapter, apparently, with this technique, assuming with this technique, you're able to create living creatures. You're able to create sentient, autonomous cursed corpses that can sustain themselves and are independent thinkers. Yeah, and that was enough to warrant consideration for special grade ranking because you could create an entire army of thinking, self-sustaining cursed corpses. It's amazing. It's an amazing technique. You could be unbeatable. You could make an entire army with this technique. It's fantastic. Next, idle transfiguration. Idle transfiguration, you can be pretty much immortal. As long as you maintain the shape of your soul, you're fucking good. You're able to change the shapes of other people's souls. You can just ignore heavenly restrictions without getting rid of the benefits. You're able to turn people into, like servant monsters that no one can heal back with reverse curse technique, seemingly. You're able to create sorcerers. If someone has the potential to be a sorcerer, you can change their brain to give them a technique, like he did with Junpei, and like with what Kenjaku did at the end of the Shibuya incident, turning a bunch of people into sorcerers. It has so much versatility and potential use. I mean, most of Mahito's growth was due to the potential uses of idle transfiguration. So yeah, it was him like changing the shape of his own soul. So yeah, idle transfiguration is amazing. Next fantastic technique is 10 Shadows. All the versatility. You have 10 different Shikigami you can summon, or well, 10 different sets of Shikigami you can summon, and pretty much all of them have a different use. Every single one of them has a different use. You can basically summon as many as you have cursed energy, seemingly. The types, or, the specific Shikigami, and the amount of them that you can summon seems to be mostly dependent on cursed energy. So if you have a lot of cursed energy, you could probably summon most, if not all of them. When they're destroyed, the power is inherited by the other Shikigami, or at least one of them, and it makes them way stronger. So, in theory, you could probably stack all of the power of the other Shikigami onto Maharaga. Speaking of, Maharaga is fucking broken as shit. You have to be stupidly powerful in order to beat Maharaga, or maybe, in theory, have a way to nullify its technique. But for most people, that thing is, like, borderline unbeatable. So, for those reasons, 10 Shadows goes in S tier. Alright, the last two. I'll tell you why curse manipulation is only second under our presumably unconditional curse technique copying. And it's because, theoretically, with curse technique copying, you could just copy curse manipulation. So for starters, curse manipulation, it's amazing. You have a seemingly unlimited quantity of curses that you can absorb. You have as many moves as you have curses because you can summon multiple at once. And with a different variety of techniques, you could potentially put your opponent in an unwinnable situation with the right combo of curses and their techniques. And the other thing is that you can extract the techniques of the curses you absorb. So if you absorb a really strong curse, like, Mahito, and you take a really fucking strong technique, like idle transfiguration, now you have curse manipulation and idle transfiguration. So that is amazing. That is a fucking incredible ability. So the reason that curse technique copying is above that is because it can copy that ability, in theory. And every other ability on this list, presumably, if it's as unconditional as we're aware that it is. So curse manipulation, 10 Shadows, idle transfiguration, cursed corpse creation, blood manipulation, maybe. You can copy it all. So you can do anything, pretty much. That's fucking disgustingly broken. It's like there's no limitations on that. It's disgusting. So yeah. Once again, I'm much more confident in this decision now that I had the assistance of the kind people on my Discord server. But I'm sure some of you have disagreements with it as well, so I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. Please share your thoughts and feelings about this list in the comments. I'm eager to see your opinions on it, what your, personal rankings of some of the techniques are. And with that, that's all I have to say for today's video. So, if you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Jujutsu Kaisen videos every week. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Kengan Omega, Black Clover, and Kaiju number 8, I do videos in those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to some of my patrons, and the patrons getting a shout out today are Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, and K-God. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos or access to some extra content, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.